Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is the Blue Line Blast podcast. I'm your host, Jim Biringer, alongside Matthew Blittner. Thanks for everybody for tuning in. During our special last week down in Prudential Center, we were talking about Tom Fitzgerald being removed as the Devils president and general manager. That search is ongoing. Matthew, what's going on, man?
Great to be back. It's been a while. It's been a month, 5 weeks since we've had a full show. Let's rock and roll.
Let's do it. Let's rock and roll. We got to start with it. Sidney Crosby, Alex Ovechkin, the rivalry. Everybody loved it. Some people maybe said it was oversaturated. It was too much. But these two guys will be forever linked. When the National Hockey League came back out of the 04-05 lockout, man, what a great rivalry. And each one of them had to go through the other to win a Stanley Cup.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's up there with, Magic and Bird over in the NBA. I guess we can go DiMaggio Williams for baseball. Peyton versus Brady over in the NFL. It's certainly up there. And for people saying, oversaturated, Sid and Ovi faced off against each other 100 times. Would have been 101, but they held Sid out of the first game of the bat-to-bat over the weekend. So 100 times. Jim, it's been 21 years? 20 seasons?
Yep.
So that's an average of what, 5 times a year? Give us more Sid and Ovi. Not less.
Exactly. Plus playoffs. I mean, think about it. These guys met in the playoffs. Every time the Penguins had to win a Stanley Cup, they had to go through or get to a final, had to play the Capitals, and vice versa. Ovi had to get – you should have – everybody needs to go back to watch that 2018 second-round series. The jubilation on Alex Ovechkin's face after he finally beat Sidney Crosby in the playoffs. And think about it, the heartbreak at the World Juniors when he played for Russia, at the Olympics playing for Russia. Every time there was something major on the line, he had to go through Sidney Crosby, and Sidney Crosby always got the best of him. So think about it. These guys saved the National Hockey League. Whether people want to agree or disagree on that, these guys are forever linked. And so is the NHL coming out of lockout. And it was just great to see it. All the guys, Letang, Malkin, Crosby with Ovi in that picture. Unfortunately, John Carlson's in Anaheim. Would have been nice to get those dudes together, everybody from those Capitals and Penguins teams that faced off against each other. But, and it's just great to see those two guys still have fun playing hockey.
They really do. It's a kid's game. It's a children's game. That's what everyone always says about sports. It's a children's game. But they really do it for the love of the game. And, obviously people can debate who's better, Sid or Ovi. One's the all-time leader in goals. The other is probably going to end up, by the time it's all said and done, number 2, if not number 3, all-time in points. Maybe drops down to number 4, depending on what Connor McDavid, finishes out his career. But that's pretty damn impressive for the two of them coming in. Both, as you said, have won, Stanley Cup. Obviously, Sid's got more hardware than Ovi in that regard. But, Ovechkin won how many Rocket Richard trophies? Just two unbelievably great players. And I know, and you and I, we were talking about this at Prudential Center the other day about, what could potentially be, would Ovechkin come back for the next season? Well, there was an article in The Athletic that I saw today. I think it came out late last night, in which The Athletic actually chronicled the last roughly week to 10 days that the Capitals and Ovechkin have been balancing, is what they called it. Spencer Carberry said it's been a balancing act. A number of Ovechkin teammates have called it a balancing act because, one, they're still trying to make the playoffs. 2, Ovechkin himself has said, well, I haven't made a decision yet. I'm not making the decision until the summer. And 3, it could be the end, so it's been a balancing act for them. And just reading between the lines and how the organization has been, I don't want to say handling it, but how the organization has been approaching it and how his teammates have been approaching it, I would say it's probably 75-35 that he does not come back for next season.
Yeah, I'm on the other side of it. I think he's coming back. I just think, unless like the wave off of Crosby at the end of the game on Sunday, like just tells me like, all right, because Crosby organized this handshake. Let's not forget, like these guys were bitter rivals. Like at the beginning of the year, at the beginning of their careers, they did not like each other one bit. Crosby lost the Calder Trophy in 05-06 to Ovechkin. Because everybody, let's just like take them back just a little bit. Don't forget, Crosby was drafted in 2005, but Ovechkin was drafted in 2004. Ovi's first year was supposed to be the lockout year. He didn't get to play, so they played at the same time, and it just went off. They just both took off, and like that's cool that Crosby gets to recognize what Ovechkin did, and he waved them off. He's like, no, we're gonna go see you guys in playoffs. And you hope they get there, but I'm not sure. I think he's going to come back. He's chasing the all-time goals mark, like the combo between playoffs and regular season from Gretzky. I just think he has a little bit more to give, and I think the Capitals, unless they know something that everybody else doesn't know, like they got to start putting the wheels in motion to replace that goal production. And the fact that he's already still scoring over 30 goals a season, and he's having fun doing it. And the fact that like kind of Malkin's kind of tipping it off a little bit that, he wants to come back. He's still having fun. And Malkin's probably going to come back with Pittsburgh too. I just think one more time. And I do, as much as he talks about, I don't want the tour and this and that. Deep down, he wants the tour.
Well, that's the whole thing. He had the tour last year when he was going about breaking Gretzky's goal record. He has gone on record saying how much he really didn't like it. Dylan Strome, in the Athletic article that I referenced a few minutes ago, talked about how Ovechkin has been very open with his teammates about how he did not like that and how he did not want to go through that again, which is why he has not made any. He's been very conscious about not making any decision or announcement during the season. If Ovechkin were to come back, it would obviously be a one-year deal. And it would obviously be, even without him saying it, it would end up being that whole circus because everyone would know, well, this is it. So it's going to turn into that. So I think that further bolsters my point of he's not coming back because he doesn't want to go through that. And he knows that if he does come back for the 1 year, it's going to inevitably turn into that. So I mean, this is evidence that he's not coming back.
I mean, also, he didn't really say anything too much at his last home game. I mean, the Capitals just played their last home game. Like, he didn't do the card thing.
They're still trying to get into the playoffs, so it might not be that last home game.
And if they don't, I mean, like, again, I think it could go either way, but I'm staying on the side of he's going to come back just because I think there's a bug inside of him. If this team doesn't make the playoffs, I think he wants to get one more crack at it.
But that's asking a lot because they might not get a crack at it. Think about it. Who's out there free agency that they're going to go out and get? Is Alex Tuch? That's Alex.
I'm not saying they could get somebody in free agency. Maybe their young kids could come, another year of Patra, Protas, another year of Cole Hudson, full years of both of those guys. I just think Spencer Carberry, another year. Like, you never know with the Caps. They know how to win in that division. And you can never count them out. We're going to see. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with them. Got a shout out to Johnathan Quick as well. That last game in the National Hockey League between the Vegas Golden Knights, LA Kings, New York Rangers final. That's it. He pulled the John Cena. He said the last time is now for him down in Florida. A heck of a career for Johnathan Quick.
Absolutely. Great career for Johnathan Quick, 3-time Stanley Cup champion. Two times he was a huge part of it. One time riding the coattails of the Vegas Golden Knights. But Jim, we have to get to our guest for the evening, Allan Kreda, a longtime sports writer who I believe is making history as our first fourth-time guest on Blue Line Blast podcast.
I believe so.
Let's go to our non-existent sponsor break. There's the mug. It's been a month, and we'll be back with Allan Kreda in just a moment. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back from our non-existent sponsor break. There's the mug. It's been a month. We are joined now by our historic first ever fourth-time guest. If this was the WWE, he'd be a four-time champion. Allan Kreda, longtime sports writer, friend of the show. Allan, welcome to the Blue Line Blast podcast for the milestone 4th time.
Thank you very much. I am honored.
Yeah, so Allan, to get into it, I mean, it's official now. For the first time ever since the New Jersey Devils, New York Rangers, and New York Islanders have all existed in the metropolitan area, none of the 3 teams will make the playoffs in the same season. Early in the 80s, when the Devils came in to be able to begin this stretch, the playoff streak was carried by the Islanders, who were their dynasty. Then, the Rangers were good in the early 90s. Then the Devils had their quasi-dynasty, 3 cups in 8 years, early, mid-90s into early 2000s. Then the Rangers regained prominence, along the way. The Islanders made a couple of appearances. Rangers really took it all, and Devils too, took it all the way into the 2010s. Then, mid-2010s, Rangers were still there, Devils not really, but Islanders then came on and held on for a bit. The streak is now dead. It's official. All 3 have been eliminated. Allan, what's your take on this?
Pretty shocking, honestly. The law of averages lasted 43 years. Stunning. I mean, it was the Devils that have missed the least because once they finally made it in 1988, they have only missed a handful of times. 96, the year after they won the Cup, 2011, 2019, these last couple of years. Like, there's just been a few. Even chances for this to happen, and in those years the Rangers were in or the Islanders were in or both, so it's pretty weird. I mean, it's pretty weird because especially the way the season started for the Islanders and the Devils, they were 2-3 in mid-November and looked like that could be a playoff matchup, which actually happened in 1988. So who knows? I mean, the Rangers were pretty much done in November. We knew that, but the Islanders were in a playoff position from December 4th until a couple of weeks ago, and the Devils imploded after Jack Hughes hurt his hand in November. So there are reasons, but it's still kind of shocking that all 3 are out this early. This early, meaning April 14th is we're done. But if you look at calendars in the decades ago, on April 14th, April 13th in 1940, the Rangers won their Stanley Cup, preceding the last one. So calendars are weird. So, but
schedules are weird.
It's just
a team league now, 32-team league
to be done. I mean, that was 6 teams. Those were crazy times. But it's like April 14th, no playoffs for sure. Shocking.
Yeah, it's definitely shocking. Now, let's stay with the Islanders for a minute because you mentioned it. Up until a couple of weeks ago, they were in the playoffs. And, whether they hit a wall, whether Matthew Darche maybe made the wrong moves at the deadline, this was only his first year, and I think a lot of people need to remember that this was his first year. You get Matthew Schaefer, but what I think what we saw down the stretch was what this team really was the team was carried by Sorokin and Schaefer, and they're not really good defensively, right, Allan?
Yeah, I mean, in the end analysis, Sorokin disguised a lot of their weaknesses. Clearly, he couldn't do it every single night. On nights where they didn't have it, nights where they even had leads and they squandered them, he couldn't always be there. The Pittsburgh game where they had a 3-1 lead a couple of weeks ago and turned into an 8-3 debacle loss, 7-3 loss in Montreal. Like, they've had games that just slipped away, and the defense exposed without Romanov's speed, exposed. When Tony DeAngelo was missing, they didn't have enough mobility there. Outside of Matthew Schaefer, slower than they had to be. Not for lack of effort, just for lack of things that intangibles that make a difference this time of year. And they just ran out of steam. For whatever reason, they just weren't the same after the Olympic break, and they certainly weren't the same these last 13 games, 4-9. I mean, what are you going to do there? That's a disaster down the stretch. Whether it was the coaching style, whether it was exhaustion, whether it was lack of confidence, something was off, and it also has to point to guys that weren't scoring goals. I mean, Andre Palat scored a goal in his first game and then 0 after that. Barzal struggling offensively with the goals. Bo Horvat didn't quite seem the same post-Olympics. It's not as dynamic, so there's that factor. Come down a gear and it hurts, and the power play was really bad the last couple of games especially. So We saw an 0 for 5 on Saturday against Ottawa in a must-have game. They couldn't score at all. So I think they just ran out of gas, and the defense was not enough to make up for Sorokin not being less than superhuman.
Hey, well, Alan, you hit on the head. They ran out of gas. You look at young teams across all sports, but we'll stick in hockey with this. They, nothing was expected of the Islanders going into this year. It was supposed to be like one of those. They're retooling. We'll see, how we go. Patrick Waugh, it's sort of like he's auditioning for the long-term gig because it's a new GM. It was a very much like, anything we get good is going to be gravy, and we just expect to not be bad. And that's ultimately what the Islanders ended up being. They ended up not being bad. They just weren't good enough just yet. Like the Flyers a year ago. Flyers were in a playoff spot until late, and then they fell apart. Look at the Red Wings last couple of years. Although that is a bit of a different debacle there. They fall apart, late. They're there, they're just not quite there. Like, they're knocking on the door, but they're not ready to go through it. But with an eye on the future, Matthew Dosh he fired Patrick Waugh, or reassigned them. Supposedly, Patrick Waugh is supposed to be scouting now for the Islanders. Brings in Pete DeBoer with an eye on the future. Devils, they fire Tom Fitzgerald. They're going to be bringing in, new president of hockey ops, GM. Rangers don't seem to be doing anything. Talk to us about the, two teams look like they're making moves for the future, and one team looks like it can't get out of its own way.
True. I mean, if there's one of the three that should be making major moves beyond the ice, it's the Rangers, and apparently there will be zero on that front. Mike Sullivan's locked in for at least 4 more years. Chris Drury apparently not going anywhere. Same old hierarchy. What their roster will look like next year is anyone's guess. I mean, they have so many spaces to fill. They have nobody that's really beyond Mika Zibanejad scoring goals at all, and the defense needs work, obviously. And now they're going to need a new backup goalie. Johnathan Quick announcing he's retiring after these last couple of games in Florida. So it's mystifying, but clearly that's going to be the same people running the show, and they need to come up with some creative answers this summer, or the Rangers will be having the same conversation a year from this Monday, with the Rangers not in the playoffs in 26, 27.
Think about it. Like, it just seems like it's just been on a downhill roller coaster, downhill train for the New York Rangers since last year when Chris Drury tried to trade Jacob Trouba in the summer, ultimately did, and everything kind of went downhill. We're seeing some nice young pieces here for the New York Rangers. I was telling somebody a day or two ago, and even into last week, maybe they should have tried this a year and a half ago. Maybe they'd be further along in the process, because you're seeing, yes, they're young. Yes, they're going to make mistakes, but that's your future of your organization. Let's see what you have. Let's see what you developed, because that's always been a knock on the Rangers. And it looks like they got some nice kids, and this, Gabe Perreault looks like he's going to be an NHLer. All it took was the Rangers to trade Artemi Panarin to do it.
It certainly seems like this should have happened much earlier this season. Listen, I think they were in state of flux. They didn't make the trades until December with Trouba and Capo Caco, and Kreda was after the season. They felt like they could still be competitive last year, and still they weren't. But this year it was clear they were not going anywhere. And yeah, these kids should have been playing after Christmas. Honestly, it would have been a whole lot better for their development, et cetera, et cetera. But at least they got a look now, and there was some positivity to the last homestand. They won 5 out of 7, a minor miracle of the way they played in the first 34 games. So they salvaged something of the debacle with the last 7 home games and 5 reasonably convincing wins, and some nice performances from Adam Sikora and his buddy from Hartford, Schlemish, and so there's hope. There's hope. Whether it translates to next year, we'll see. I mean, they certainly deserve another fair shot. And this coaching staff, which hasn't exactly embraced youth, really. I mean, they haven't. maybe they'd do a better job in next season.
Well, speaking of things that they, maybe a reason for hope, or maybe not, the Rangers, the announcement sort of flew under the radar a little bit, but they brought back Kevin Maxwell to be part of the scouting and player development department again. And Maxwell had originally been with them from, I think, early 2000s to roughly like 2015 or something like that. Then he went over to St. Louis. And, Allan, you've gotten to know Kevin over the years pretty well. What does he bring that maybe might help the young kids with the Rangers and maybe might help the organizational direction?
He's just a steady hand that knows the organization. He was there back in the Tom Rennie era. That's how far back that goes. So he definitely knows how they operate. There was some good players that came into the team back then. So steady hand, veteran in the business. Usually that's a good thing. I guess Chris Drury had a relationship with him way back when he was a player, so it makes sense to that degree. Another layer probably can only help. And really the way the Rangers have struggled with drafts over the last decade, and so many of their first-round picks never even made it or made it very minimally, this could be a positive step in that direction of improving that momentum.
Yeah. And now, that brings us to New Jersey, because that's another organization that needs to find a direction and an identity. You talk about the Rangers, but now Tom Fitzgerald is not there as a president and general manager of the team. Now, mixed reports coming out, whether they're going to go president, whether they're going to go just GM, who are they looking at. But when you talk about bringing an organization like a person like a Kevin Maxwell back to the Rangers, what do you think the Devils need to look for in terms of hiring a general manager, as well as maybe the rest of the staff inside the organization?
Seems like they need a dynamic personality like Brendan Shanahan, who grew up as a Devil teenage player with the Devils, a hockey lifer, plenty of experience with the Maple Leafs, working for the league. I mean, he's probably the name out there they need the most. That would make the most sense for the fan base, as much as executives matter to the fan base. They need a big name. They need a grand plan. They need something beyond what's been happening, even though they've had moderate success the last 5 years. But it's make the playoffs, miss the playoffs, make the playoffs, miss the playoffs. That's a tough pattern to stay with. But they certainly have some of the players and a lot of the talent they need. They proved it last year when they made it. They proved it 2023 when they had an excellent year under Lindy Ruff and beat the Rangers in 7 games before losing to Carolina. So they have something. Of course, Jack Hughes is one of the elite players in the game. Surround him with more elite, and he's only getting better as he moves along. But he has to be healthy and at his peak more than he was this year. Just him missing games for 2 months was a huge drag on their ability to succeed. And can't blame that on management, but they clearly want a different path. Be interesting to see if they change coaches, which is a possibility. But I feel like Brendan Shanahan is the right voice and person with enough experience and leverage in the business to make a big difference.
Well, on that train of thought with Brendan Shanahan, and again, that is the popular pick for the Devils to hire as president of hockey operations. The other name out there is Sonny Mehta, who, he did work in the Devils organization prior, now he's assistant GM down in Florida. Supposedly, he's the hot candidate, so to speak, for teams looking for GMs right now. Do you potentially foresee, Shanahan as president and Mehta as the GM? And then if the Devils go that way, I mean, they're pretty much set up top down. And what do they then do with Sheldon Keefe? Because I don't believe that Mehta and Keefe have any prior relationship, but Keefe and Shanahan certainly do from their time in Toronto.
Sure. I mean, it's an interesting concept. Layers, some younger management, sure. The analytics, the new age of hockey, mixing in, definitely not a bad idea. But again, the coach is the big variable. What do? You hire 2 new executives above the coach, neither of whom hired him. That makes it weird, as it always does, and sort of a ticking clock on when they actually do change it. similar to what the Islanders did when the GM's hired. You're eventually going to hire their coach. So it's just the way it evolves. So do the Devils want to go full clean house? It's possible, but they weren't terrible this year. They just were not themselves for too long of a stretch to be where they thought they should be in the playoffs, but they weren't down where the Rangers are dead last. They still have a reasonably good season beyond the injury to Jack Hughes. So, but yeah, intriguing to have Brendan Johnathan and a younger management person right below him, and then them potentially deciding on a new coach if that's the way they're going to go.
Yeah, just one more for me before we wrap it up. I just want to talk about, because you mentioned the coach, but we've seen this, with the coaches coming in. Lindy Ruff, who's back in the playoffs. John Hines has been here. Travis Green back in the playoffs. It seems like they do a good job with the personnel in the first year, and then the second year, well, Travis was only interim, and then he moved on. But they do a good job in the first year, and the second year, it's like the players, either they lose the message, they're not dialed into the details. It feels like it's almost at a breaking point for the core group of this team as well. Is that something you're going to have to look at when the new general manager and or president of hockey operations is brought in?
It's a valid question. I mean, it seems like at least on offense, the youth is still on their side with Jesper Bratt and Jack Hughes. His mainstays, Dawson Mercer. I mean, these guys are still very young. It's the defense that probably needs the revamping. Dougie Hamilton, a lot of mileage. They definitely need more speed and mobility back there, same as probably the Islanders had, really. And but yeah, it's a question. It always comes up. I know the tuning out of the coach in year 2, that didn't happen in generations past as much as it seems to happen these days. I don't know if it's season's so long, if it's the repetitiveness of something when the team's not winning. It's tough. I mean, look at Bruce Cassidy with Vegas. All he did is win, and it wasn't enough, and it wasn't there that long. Yeah, it's a short shelf life for coaches, and I suspect more so when there's a generation gap. There's a coach in his 50s or 60s, and you got guys in their early 20s. Maybe it just doesn't work past a certain honeymoon period where the players kind of do what they want. That's my theory. I don't know if it's provable, but it's human nature. Maybe if you don't like the message, you stop listening. And we've certainly seen enough coaching moves that seem curiously early. So it wouldn't shock me either way if New Jersey keeps their coach, Sheldon Keefe, or moves on despite his success. Pretty good regular seasons, not last place finishes where nothing's going right. These were a competitive team last year that made the playoffs, and this year, again, without Jack Hughes, with 2.5 months, they lost their chance. But it wasn't for lack of effort, I think.
Well said, Alan. And, everything that you're just saying reminds me of the old saying, coaches are hired to be fired, and that's pretty much what it is. Before we let you go, gotta ask, you are a big baseball fan. You are a very big baseball savant. How are you feeling about your pal Pete Alonso right now? One home run
start. I think he must be something's off with the water in Baltimore, or his workout regimen. Maybe he's getting up too early. One home run. It's middle of April. He's going to have to hit another 39 or 40 home runs before Labor Day just to make. I mean, I don't know. It's very strange. He looks completely fish out of water so far. I don't know if they figured out a different way to pitch him. I don't know if the Orioles lineup doesn't offer the same protection. I mean, clearly the Mets made a mistake letting him go because they right now I could play first base better than what's going on there. And I'm retired, but I really can't figure it out. I thought that's a hitter's ballpark. I know they moved the fences back, but I still think 42, 43 home runs is a viable possibility, but it's going to take some work for him to get to that level. That's for sure.
You heard it here, folks. David Stern, Steve Cohen. We've got a new first baseman for you right here. His name's Allan Kreda. Alan, thank you so much for joining the Blue Line Blast podcast. And ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back with more of the show right after this second non-existent sponsor break. Welcome back from our second non-existent sponsor break of the show, ladies and gentlemen. That was our chat with our friend Allan Kreda, who making his historic 4th appearance on the Blue Line Blast podcast. First person to ever do that. So kudos to him for coming on. And now we're going to work our way from fact into not quite fiction, but into the muck that is the NHL playoff picture. NHL regular season ends in just a couple days, and yet with the amount of parity in the league and with the amount of how close things are, if you want to say, well, it's because of the standings, because they don't go 3-2-1 for a point system, or just because there's not really that many great teams, whatever reason you want to give, we're all ears. But there's only one playoff series that is locked in, clinched, official, done, deal signed on the dotted line, and that is the Dallas Stars will have home ice advantage in the first round against the Minnesota Wild. Jim, that is a knockdown, drag it out, 7-game series if I've ever seen one. It is a slobber knocker. It is, that series. And they just played each other just the other day. And there was, I think it was 3 lead changes in the third period, multiple fights. I mean, Jim, this is going to be one heck of a series. And I know Dallas has a couple of injuries to a couple of key guys. The health of Rantanen is a bit in question. But this has the makings of a classic series, and it's just a shame it's not a conference final.
Yeah, definitely a shame not a conference final. But heck, we wouldn't even know if they would even get there if it was the other way. When we want to talk about formats, we don't even know if they would even get to the conference final. But Dallas, Minnesota, round 1, definitely going to go 15 rounds for the heavyweight belt. This is a heavyweight tilt, 7-game series. Got it locked all over it. Minnesota looking to try to get to a second round. Seems like they always run into somebody in the first round. Seems like, well, in the past it was the Blackhawks. When they did get to the second round, they had to see the Blackhawks again. Now they got to deal with the Dallas Stars. But Billy G, he went out. Bill Guerin, the GM of the Wild. This is why he went to go get Quinn Hughes, one of the best puck possession defensemen in the league. Probably being nominated for Norris Trophy again. Setting records for the Minnesota Wild as a defenseman in 40-something games. This guy is unbelievable. And they got him, but they didn't address their depth down the middle. Dallas is, the goaltending is probably about even with Ottinger and Gustafson. And, you can go to Wallstedt if you need to, if you're Minnesota. It's just going to be a knockdown, drag-out fight. I mean, Haskin on the back end. You got Bull. I mean, there's so many layers to this thing. This is why, the first round is really good. And again, a good team goes home. But there's no guarantees these teams would face off in the other format either. Kind of glad we're getting it now. My eyes, this probably be one of the most watched series of the first round.
All right, and Jim, a little conversation piece about this series that I haven't seen anyone bring up, and it's a little bit of a stretch, but I'm gonna, bring it together nicely here. Jim, who were the Dallas Stars before they were the Dallas Stars?
I believe they were the Minnesota North Stars.
Right. Now, obviously, the Minnesota Wild are a legitimate separate franchise.
Yes.
But Minnesota team moves to Dallas. Dallas playing a Minnesota team. Got a little bit of a little extra flair to it.
I mean, you know what would make it a little more flair to this, Matt?
What, Ric Flair showing up and saying woo?
No. Besides that. If the Minnesota Wild would go with their Minnesota North Star-esque colors for their Wild jerseys.
That would be great.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, so, this series does have some subplots to it.
It does.
And now that we've talked about the only guaranteed series, I guess, Jim, let's start with the other team in the Central. I can't believe we're calling them the other team. They won the damn President's Trophy, the Colorado Avalanche, who just, they look like the team to beat all year outside like that one little swoon.
Yeah, a little stretch, a little bit.
President's Trophy winners don't generally win the Stanley Cup, but we're not throwing out predictions right now. Jim, they could still play a number of different teams. I mean, as they're going to play the number 2 wild card, who at the moment is the Los Angeles Kings. It could end up being the Anaheim Ducks if the Kings overtake the Ducks. It could end up being the Nashville Predators if the Predators overtake the Kings. And, I mean, San Jose and Winnipeg have not yet been mathematically eliminated because they have a game in hand. But let's be honest, Winnipeg and San Jose pretty much are out of it. There would have to be some massive things that happen for one of them to take the number 2 wild card. So Colorado is basically playing one of 3 teams. They're either playing Anaheim, Los Angeles, or Nashville, with it most likely being Los Angeles or Nashville.
Yeah, I mean, unless like Utah continues their slide and, you know, Anaheim and or LA passes them in points. I mean, look, realistically, I think Utah Mammoth need to just get another win. They'll be okay. And they'll be locked into wild card 1 because that's where you want to be in the Western Conference. You want to be in wild card 1. That way you don't got to play the Colorado Avalanche. That way you could play one of either Vegas, Edmonton, and or Anaheim in the first round of the playoffs. Colorado, this team got better. They added Kadri. You know, Wedgwood and Blackwood are starting to come around. McCarr's the best defenseman in the National Hockey League. Let's just see what – I mean, you don't bet against Nate McKinnon in the playoffs. Marty Natchez is there. You know, another year Brock Nelson there. Let's see if Arturi Lehkonen and Val Nichushkin in the lineup. Like, they have depth. Now, their D is maybe not as strong as it was when they won the Cup. But it's still a Colorado Avalanche. Is it still the Colorado Avalanche Open like it was in December? Probably not. But how are you not betting on the Colorado Avalanche to come out of the Western Conference?
Absolutely. And, you know, it's funny because, you know, the Avs have all these different teams that they, you know, these number of teams that they could conceivably play against. And the team that, the way I would like this to shape up, Colorado can play, let's say they play Anaheim. Let's say Anaheim falls from the 3 to the number 2 wild card spot, right?
Yeah.
That could be a very fun series because Anaheim is far exceeded expectations this year. You know, they've got some youth, they've got some veterans. You can't really overlook them. But what that really does, if that were to happen, and Jim, not too many people are talking about this, but, you know, we did have the conversation at Prudential Center about this. It allows potentially Los Angeles and Edmonton.
I don't want to see it again. I don't want to see it again, man. I don't.
And Edmonton has won them all.
No more. I'm like, we talk about voter fatigue when it comes to these awards. Like, people are like, oh, McDavid again, like McCarr again, really? It's like, dude, really? We're gonna see Edmonton and LA again? Again? Like, first of all, LA should have just put that demon away last year and they didn't do it. The way McDavid's playing could be a sweep. If it's the Edmonton one,
especially if they get Draisaitl back, you know.
Yeah, I mean, this is 4 or 5, if that. If it goes 6, I'd be shocked. Like, I really would be shocked because I think Edmonton's a better team than LA this year. And the issue is LA don't have Kevin Fiala. So without Kevin Fiala, and is it like, I had to bring this up. Is there a goalie controversy in LA right now? Because Anton Forsberg's been getting the majority of starts. Now, is it because DJ Smith knows him from Ottawa and he just doesn't trust Darcy Kemper? Or is it the fact that Forsberg's outplaying Kemper right now?
Hey, you guys know with the hot hand, especially when you haven't clinched anything yet, right?
Right, exactly. Like, I like that move by DJ out there in LA. I really do. I like that move by them. Yeah, Western Conference up for grabs. Pacific, just, I mean.
Yeah, like, I mean, look, you could basically have the last Western Conference matchup under the circumstances that we've outlined so far would be Vegas versus Utah, which would be an interesting series.
That'd be a fun series. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, that would be fun. You know, Utah is an unproven playoff market in terms of, like, you know, we haven't yet seen how the fans and the players will react in the playoffs there. It's obviously been a long time since that team. I know they were technically Arizona, but now they're technically they're
a different franchise because Arizona's deactivated, and this is the Utah Mammoths' first trip to the Stanley Cup playoffs. I was about to say
right.
finals.
So
no.
It would be fun. You know, it'll be fun to see And then, of course, Vegas, John Tortorella has not had that much playoff success in his last couple stops. Now, Flyers were a young team on the rise. They weren't quite there yet. Columbus was not there yet. So he really hasn't had any playoff success since his Ranger days. But, could Tortorella keep that spot going with Vegas? It looked like Vegas was on the potential way out of, maybe falling out of the playoffs.
And now they're back.
One of the hottest teams in the league.
And now they're back in and could win the division.
Yeah, and I mean, look, Mark Stone is healthy. He's always been a great playoff performer. Chad Eichel.
We know what he did. We know what he did when he won the cup. Like,
right. Mitch Marner's playing a lot better right now. Jim,
does that defense hold up though, man?
You know what? There's no such thing as a perfect team. Vegas could, Vegas could scare some teams. If they get on a roll a little bit, they could scare some teams.
Yeah, man. I know. Like, it's just that I just like this Vegas team. Like, again, questions in goal. But, again, Mark Stone, we got Torts. We get that new coach bump. This is what they kind of wanted to do going in. So, I mean, nothing's settled yet. But, I mean, if we thought the West was wild, Wild Wild West, what's going on in the East? Because, like we don't even know anything in the East. Nothing. No.
This is what we know in the East. Jim, do me a favor. Take your hat off. Take some papers. Put the names of the Eastern Conference teams in there. Shake it up. And pull it out. Because that's basically what the East playoff picture looks like.
Yeah.
Okay. We know, for fans who have been maybe, not paying attention, we know that Buffalo has clinched a playoff spot. We know Montreal has clinched a playoff spot. We know Tampa Bay has clinched a playoff spot. We know Carolina has clinched a playoff spot and it's the number one team in the Eastern Conference. We know Pittsburgh has clinched a playoff spot. We know Boston and Ottawa have clinched wild card spots, but we don't know who's going to be the one, who's going to be the two. The three in the Metro is still to be determined. It could be the Flyers. It could be the Capitals. It could be the Blue Jackets. Jim, Buffalo, Montreal, and Tampa could all still switch around seeding.
Yep.
Literally, the only team locked into a seed in the East is Carolina. And I guess, technically, Pittsburgh is guaranteed to be the number two in the Metro. That's it.
Draw the diagram. I mean, like, this one goes here, or this scenario happens there, that happens here, this one, like, it's like, if the Philadelphia Flyers win, that's it. It's done. They're in. It's over. We know it's set. But, and that's only one matchup. If they get in, it's Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, renew the rivalry.
Yeah, Battle, Pennsylvania.
That's it. We just know it. Because the rest of it, unless I think if Buffalo beats Chicago after we record and the game goes on late, you wake up the next morning, I do believe would have clinched the top spot in the Atlantic Division, or at least the Montreal Canadiens cannot get the top spot in the Atlantic Division. So, I mean, there is still
let's see. Both Buffalo and Montreal, as of this recording, have 106 points, and Montreal has played 81 games while Buffalo's played 80.
Right.
So if Buffalo wins, that gives them 108 points with one game to play.
Right.
Montreal
has one game left.
Win their last game would have 108 points. So it comes down to who would own the tiebreaker. Tiebreaker is it head-to-head for them?
I believe so. Well, here it is. I'm looking at I just pulled it up on NHL. So if Buffalo wins the division, if they win and Tampa Bay loses, a regulation win for Buffalo and a Tampa Bay loss to Detroit in regulation, get it. An OT win plus a loss by OT shootout win plus a Tampa Bay loss of any, they're the number one seed in the Atlantic Division.
Okay. Well, I mean,
they must own the tiebreaker over the Canadians.
We're being deprived then, because the series that everyone would want to see in the East is Buffalo, Tampa, because of the fireworks that they had a couple weeks ago.
Right.
People should want Montreal to be the number one in the Atlantic. That way you get.
I think people want to be. I think some people want Montreal to be number one in the Atlantic so they could get Boston in the first round.
Right, and get Boston in the first round, or you do Montreal, Ottawa. Because
give me that.
Carolina plays Boston. We all know a certain Stoddy Walker. We all remember Stoddy Walker, don't we?
Yep, we do.
And that allows Buffalo. There could be some great rivalry matchups, historic matchups in the East if things break certain ways. Let's be honest. Buffalo Tampa in the first round is a lot sexier of a matchup than Montreal Tampa.
I don't know. Did you see those games?
I did, but Montreal
fisticuffs in that game too. In those games,
Montreal, Boston, or Montreal, Ottawa.
I would take the latter two. Don't get me wrong. If I'm a fan, I'm watching the latter two, no doubt.
In Carolina, Boston, come on,
good.
Just bring Stoddy Walker out for the opening faceoff. For the ceremonial puck drop.
Oh, that'll get everybody going.
You want to talk about how riling people up? Have him drop the ceremonial face-off putt. There'll be a fight before the first face-off starts.
It's crazy the fact of the matter that we're down to the last week of the regular season, a couple games left, and nothing is decided. Seeding-wise, playoff-wise, this is why you love the National Hockey League regular season. This is why it matters. That's why you don't need no convoluted playing round like the NBA has. First of all, it doesn't even make sense how they're doing it, and you ruin your regular season because this is when the games matter. Because last couple of years, these games have mattered. This week gets people engaged, people watching. You're watching games probably you would not normally watch. And here we are because Philadelphia down 2-0 Carolina, tie it up. Still alive. It didn't look good for Philadelphia. Now back in it, trying to get in because they know a win gets them in. And pretty much sinks everybody else. So you got to love this time of year.
Yeah, playoff hockey starts Saturday, April 18th. Jim, how many hours is that from now?
I'm only good with days. Was it 6 days from 5 days from now? 6 days from now? 5 days from now?
Till the greatest first round in all sports.
To quote the commissioner.
You know what? We may have our issues with Commissioner Bettman. He's not wrong about it being the greatest.
No, not wrong about it. But look, lot to be decided this week. You know where to get it locked in. Blue Line Blast podcast. Playoffs start Saturday. We'll be back next week. Get you all see what happened early on in these rounds. Dissect everything. What we're seeing. What we don't like. Get some great guests coming on. Maybe a dissection of a local team again because nothing else to talk about there. But it's been Jim Biringer, Matthew Blittner. Guys, Blue Line Blast podcast. Take care and enjoy.